Ledger is a writing podcast, and it definitely contains more than 250 words. I am your host, Austin Wilson. Welcome to today's show, where I am talking with flash fiction writer and teacher Kathy Fish. Kathy has had her work published in places like Ploughshares, Copper Nickel, Waxwing Magazine, Electric Literature, Wigleaf, Smokelong Quarterly, a bunch of amazing places. She also runs the Art of Flash Fiction Substack. If you go to artofflashfiction.substack, you'll find it. She's doing a flash fiction extravaganza from March 1st to March 22nd this year, 2026, right now. And you can go participate. I'm there. I've already posted 2 flash pieces and talked to people in the comments. It's super fun. So today it's all about flash fiction. We talk about writing super short stories, whether those are different than long stories, how our brains deal with that, attention span, the words that we're not writing in order to make things happen on the page, how Kathy came to teaching, all kinds of stuff, all about microfiction, flash fiction, short stories, whatever you want to call it. It's a great conversation. I loved getting a chance to chat with Kathy, and I love flash fiction. If you know anything about me or if you've listened before, if not, yeah, it's a great form. Sometimes people limit it to 1,000 words or less, just kind of depending. Sometimes 100 words. I've written a 100-word story. Kathy, we talk about that. She's written a 100-word story. A lot of fun. You should definitely check it out. Go to artofflashfiction.substack.com and check out the Flash Fiction Extravaganza this month. And coincidentally, I have an article up on remotewritingjobs.org. It's also a Substack that posts writing jobs. I pitched an article about things I've learned from writing short fiction, flash fiction, and it just so happened that it was going to go live this very week when I was joining Kathy's Flash Fiction Extravaganza, so go check that out. I also recently did a print interview with Abigail Monti. She is a publicist with Quadrille. That's a Penguin Random House imprint. That's up on my Substack, which I believe I probably should have had this memorized right now. It's literally, I'm Austin R. Wilson on Substack. I think it's called Ledger, Tales and Appreciation. So go check out my chat with Abigail Monti there. And then she did an interview with me about running Moss Heart Books. That's going to be on her Substack, which is called Unsolicited Manuscript. So check that out. As always, go to my website, austinrwilson.com or mossheartbooks.com to check out my stuff. Talk to me there. I'm on Instagram at mossheartbooks, and make sure you like and subscribe, do all those things. But realistically, hey, just go write some flash fiction, even if it's not at Kathy's Substack for the Flash Fiction Extravaganza. Sit down, write a story for 500 words, 200 words. It's so much fun. Kathy is doing prompts for the 22 days of the extravaganza on her Substack. So paid member of her Substack, you can join the extravaganza, but her website has a ton of stuff on it. Even if you're not a paid member, that can help you jump into flash fiction and write short stories. And I really do think that it ends up teaching you a lot about story structure and characterization, all those things, by doing something really short. So check it out. But for now, here is my talk with Kathy Fish. One of the big questions that we deal with here at Ledger, kind of on and off in certain iterations, is how you start, like where you start writing and how, like not where the idea comes from. Let's say you already have the idea. But that very first step to writing flash fiction, what's that look like for you, and how do you start? Even like you have the idea, it's even just a word or an inkling, like how do you start?
I never start with a plot. I never have like a fully figured out story in my mind.
Yeah.
I often just get an inspiration from a snippet of dialogue or a certain rhythm that I've caught onto when I read something.
Yeah.
Uh, it's hard to say an image. Uh, so basically, I'd never sit down to the page with an idea.
Really?
I have to scribble. Yeah, I just have to write a bunch and it comes out as gibberish. And then at some point there'll be something, I don't know if this happens to you, Austin, but you get that spark, like,
Yeah.
oh, this is good. This is good. I'm going to run with
Yeah.
this. And it's really, I always start with paper and pen. And then when that spark happens, then I go directly to my laptop and start typing.
Oh, that's interesting.
I cannot start cold with the blinking cursor
Yeah.
and the blank page. I don't know how people do it.
Oh, it's so funny. For me, I find that I struggle writing longhand fiction more than I do typing. So a lot of the stuff that I'm writing longhand, whether it's pen or pencil or whatever, I'm usually doing ideas. Like I'm just like, what if this happened? What if this happened? Or just kind of writing
Right.
not necessarily nonsense, but close to it, where it's along those same lines. But I never feel like I've officially started until I'm typing. And I've always been curious
Yeah.
if I could write a full story just longhand or if it would feel incomplete to me.
I don't think I could. And I just heard recently that the novelist Lauren Groff always writes the first draft of all her novels on paper.
It's so
Isn't
interesting.
that
Yeah.
wild?
I'm pretty sure Andre Debus the third still does too. Like he writes longhand still on paper with pencil, which I don't I I think there's something I've probably trained myself into thinking that the act of typing is more official in some way, and potentially they've trained their brains into thinking. I don't know. I wonder if there's
Yeah.
any way to trace it back to where we started and why. But that's funny that you don't start with an idea at all. Like, do you start, is it literally like I want to write a story? Or are you like, I know that there's a thing I want to aim towards? Or are you just like, I'm going to sit down for the day to begin getting words on the page, no matter what they are, and we'll see where it takes me?
The second.
The second one?
So, yeah, you said about how it feels official.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want anything to be official until I have a sense of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing my gobbledygook on the computer screen.
Yeah.
So I think for me too, just that sort of scribbling is sort of like a warm.
Yeah.
So I'm warming up my creative brain, my writerly muscles or whatever. And then, yeah, on a good day, it clicks and it really goes. And some days it's just, I never get to the computer.
So let's talk about those days. I'm so curious then about a day where you are, to use your word, writing gobbledygook. Like, does that feel like a failure? It's another thing I talk about a lot on Ledger, is whether you feel successful in doing a thing that doesn't produce what everyone would look at and be like, that's a measure of success, whether it's a finished story or you sell the story. Or how do the days where you're just on the page doing longhand feel? Does it feel like a failure or just like a step towards something
No,
else?
no. And there's a quote that you made me think of it, and I won't be able to replicate it, but it's a Zen thing or a Buddhist thing or a yoga thing or something where it says no effort or effort in practice is wasted. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking? Nothing you do is wasted. I truly believe that. I really believe that. It's frustrating, but I know that it's, for me, I have to really sift through a lot of stuff
Yeah.
for me to understand even what I want to write. I think it was Joan Didion or Joyce Carol Oates who said, I write to find out what I think.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's how it works for me.
Yeah, I mean it's a beautiful thought and a beautiful process, honestly, to go through to kind of unpeel the layers of yourself and get really to the center of something. Is that a thing you knew about your writing ever since you've been writing fiction, or is that something you kind of had to come to over the course of years?
I came to it.
Yeah,
So when I first started writing, I didn't have this sort of artistic process. And I thought, okay, I'm going to write a story. And as a child, I wrote stories. And then I abandoned writing until I got a little bit older. And then I was trying to still do that, but I had 4 children and I was a very busy person. I think that's what led me to flash fiction.
yeah,
But I had this idea that, okay, I have 15 minutes or 20 minutes while kids are doing something, or I'm in the car before picking up for school. I have 15 minutes. School hasn't let off yet. I have 15 minutes. I want to write something and finish it,
Yeah.
right? So this was before really flash fiction was a thing or a well-known thing. And here I was doing that. So I was like early on, I was very like, I'm going to have characters and there's going to be a plot and something's going to happen and there's going to be, an ending, an arc or whatever. And I guess gradually I started developing a more poetic style
Yeah.
and recently more experimental. And that's not something you can sit down and write, I don't think. You have to play around a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the style evolved. Yeah, and the method and the process.
So I'm curious about so much of that. I think the thing that I'm a huge fan of narrative and of story structure and 3 acts and 5 acts and whatever it is. I'm a huge fan of that stuff, but I'm also so drawn to flash fiction. And part of the reason why I think I felt that draw to flash fiction is because I kind of had to divorce myself from that being stuck with like 3 acts. And oftentimes I'll write a story and I'll be like, well, this is kind of a vignette. I don't know that I wrote a story. And I would love to talk to you about the ways you feel about flash fiction versus longer fiction, and whether you write longer fiction, and if flash really feels like it's firing on all cylinders, like it's doing its best work when it kind of leans more toward vignette, because telling a 3 act story in 100 words is not super easy. You can do it obviously, but there are it's you have to shift how you think about it. So let's talk about vignette versus structured story within flash fiction. Where do you think vignette is the like true nature of flash fiction?
No.
No.
Next question.
Fantastic.
No.
I love it.
Well, here's the thing,
Yeah.
and not everybody believes this, but I believe strongly that flash fiction has evolved over the years. Early on, it was a short story. Everything else about a story applied to flash fiction, except for the length, right? So
Yeah.
you had to do all the things that you were taught were part of writing short stories. You had to do it for your flash fiction. Now, over the years, and it's been 30 years, I guess, since since those first anthologies were published, right? It has evolved. It has become much more fluid, more experimental, closer to poetry. When you say vignette, I think what you're really saying is prose poetry. A vignette for me, what's the official what's the official definition of a vignette?
Let's
Just
let's look it up real fast.
I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't want to
Uh,
disparage vignette.
let's see. Short, usually descriptive literary sketch, unburdened
Yeah,
picture,
sketch.
portrait. So yeah, sketchy.
Sketch. So for me, okay, you have a short story on the one side, you have a prose poem on the other side, and then you have the sketch.
Yeah.
I don't think a vignette is anything you want to write in terms of saying flash fiction.
Yeah.
So either that tiny piece uh, has the sense of an arc,
Yeah.
the sense of a story bigger than is contained in that 100 words, 200 words, whatever. A vignette as a sketch does not have that piece. It doesn't have the piece of resonance, right?
Hmm.
So the vignette is self-contained. This is it. This is the little sketch. This is what happened when I was walking the dog and the rainbow came out or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm being so disparaging, but
No, no, I think
um,
that's. I don't think you are. I don't think you are. You continue.
so if you take that 100 words or 150 words, what makes it a flash instead of a vignette is that you've got this resonance around it. So it has a sense of movement, but it's like there's a bigger story contained in a small place versus this is the story. This what you got right here. That's it. There's nothing that the reader will take in them afterwards or feel or think.
Yeah.
So so a lot of people ask me, what's the difference between flash and prose poetry?
Yeah.
So the answer I've come up with for that is that a prose poem may have that sense of a story. There may be that feeling in there that there's been a change from beginning to end. There's been some kind of an arc or resolution. May have, but a flash fiction kind of has to have that,
Yeah.
right? So that's where we get back to the idea of a story. But I say, given this limited amount of space,
Yeah.
the flash writer has to employ so many different tools to accomplish the same things, I guess, that a short story would.
Yeah.
So I can't have a big opening paragraph that establishes all these things, and I can't have scenes. I can't have 1,000 characters. I can't have a nicely tied up bow of an ending.
Right.
So I try to make that happen in the reader's mind, right?
Yeah.
So in the reader's mind, there's this bigger story. We use subtext. We use a lot of visuals, those sorts of things that poets use, right? We play with the language. We use repetition. We use those tools that poets use that gives the reader an experience, right?
Yeah.
So I have the experience of an emotion. I feel as though I've read this 500 word flash and I feel like I have a real sense of the character, the bigger world, and and all of this, but I didn't do it the way a short story would write it because I don't have that kind of room.
Right. It's funny. So I just talked to author. He's a novelist, Kyle Winkler, and he writes specifically a lot of horror fiction. And he said a thing that stuck with me, and it really applies to flash fiction too. And he was talking about horror specifically, the genre. That really what he's doing is scaring the reader with the words he's not writing. And
Ooh, I like that.
right, I was like, oh yeah, that's super cool to think about. And
Yeah.
writing flash, and specifically I thought about it this morning for your flash extravaganza on Substack, which we'll get to here in a minute. But and I was also thinking about it because I was thinking about the lessons that I've learned while I was writing this piece, that dialogue attribution are these like anchors that you kind of don't really need in flash fiction. And she said, he said, mom said, they said, whatever it is. So I was writing dialogue this morning, and I'm like, I need to make it so that that the mom is talking. So what would the mom say to the daughter, where you, the reader, know immediately that that's the mom talking and not the daughter talking? And the thing I came up with was "Hi, honey," and that kind of stuff. That like the absence of words being one of the defining factors of flash is one of the reasons why I love it so much. Like, what words can I use that will indicate these gaps that you, the reader, will be like, oh, this is happening. It's a lot of fun.
It is fun, and the challenge is, on the one hand, I want to leave some white space for the reader to fill in the blanks. On the other hand, I don't want anybody to be confused.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Very hard balance.
That's the challenge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Super fun.
I don't know that I always achieve it in my own stuff. Yeah.
No, well, it's also hard to know because you could say a thing that I absolutely understand immediately, but 9 other readers might not. And it's always hard to, I talk about that with my alpha, beta readers, whoever is going to read my stuff. Like, my best friend will read my stuff, but he knows me so well that it's hard for him to not hear Austin.
Oh, sure.
Like saying the words. So it is interesting to try to find that balance.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in terms of leaving things out, that's the beauty of flash, when you can make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh. That feeling you were talking about earlier of like, when you're like, this sings, or this is, you feel that like catch, the less words I've used, that feeling is almost like amplified 1,000-fold, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, this feels so good. But it's hard to get there.
My friend Nancy Stolman, she's a flash writer.
Yeah.
has been for many, many years. She has this wonderful exercise she presents, and she'll read a piece that I think is maybe 400 words, right? And it's a good story. I mean, it's good. And then she cuts it down and she reads the 200 word version.
Yeah.
And that's kind of good, right? And then I think she gets it down to like 25 or 30
Oh,
words.
that's awesome.
And by that time, it's stunning.
Yeah.
It really is. The impact is very strong. Now, as I'm describing this, I'm wondering if it helps that the people listening hear all the other versions.
I was just
Um,
about to ask, has she ever done it where she
yeah,
starts at 25 words and then builds? That would be a lot of
that
fun
would
to
be
watch.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
But still, I think it's a fun exercise. And I honestly arrived at Flash through writing one page comics. So a one page comic where it's maybe 10 panels, maybe 11 panels. And that
Fun.
challenge of that like puzzle, gosh, it really, really energized me to the point where I got really obsessed with the form. And I did want to ask if do you write longer fiction at all, or is it just Flash?
So I wrote longer stories once I really got into writing.
Yeah.
Okay, the kids were off to school. I got more time on my hands.
Yeah.
I did. I wrote probably 10 or so short stories and published most of those. I'm right now looking at my stories to pull together a collection. So I've got these longer stories and I'm looking at them now and they're thinking, no, they're not too bad,
Yeah.
right? And I'm surprised that I'm not feeling like I have to cut them down.
Cut. Yeah.
And maybe you've seen it on Substack, but every morning I've been reading a short story from the best American short stories of the century. And I love it. I love the space to really develop a story and have some different scenes and show that progression. It's just really fun. So so there is a big part of me that wants to get back to writing longer stories.
I was thinking about the ways in which longer fiction feel as a reader and a writer, and I'm curious what you think longer fiction, if you think it will use a different part of your brain, or if it's going to use the same part and you maybe just carry over some of the lessons that you learned from writing Flash, where you're like, well, I don't really need to say, I mean, it's the strunk and white omit needless words thing, which I always, whenever I'm writing anything, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, do I need this? Do I need this? In Flash, obviously, that is, magnified. But do you think long fiction is very different from Flash fiction, or is it? Are they really just maybe opposite sides of the coin?
I do. I think they are quite different. Now a lot of the flash that's published now is in the form of a short story, very, very short story. But you don't see those scenes that you get you just don't get the same experience.
Yeah,
So when I sit in the morning and I read a short story, today's was pretty long. It was by Philip Roth. It was pages and pages. I think it took me at least 45 minutes to read it.
yeah,
And I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. So you don't get that experience. You don't get that experience of sitting with character, watching them go through various things. So they are different forms. I think sometimes people approach Flash when they're reading Flash as poems. So when you are reading a collection of Flash fiction, for me anyway, I can't read Flash, 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 Flash. And that's what's hard during the extravaganza
yeah.
because I really need to sit with things, whereas I could probably with a short story. I don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah, I guess I hadn't thought about the length with which I need to engage with the story. Because for me specifically, I guess if I'm reading a collection, it might be different where I wouldn't feel maybe pulled away from the book but reading for like Flash Extravaganza, I have jumped from story to story to story. And I'm wondering if sitting with them longer would affect, I mean, I would almost say it would have to, that I would sort of bake them a little longer and get a little more out of them if I didn't just immediately jump to another thing.
I That's a great point. I think something I've gotten kind of good at is in a workshop setting to really fast track that whole thing. So I'm reading it, but I'm also keeping in mind what the bigger story might be,
Yeah.
what the symbolism or the metaphor. So a lot of times the writer doesn't see that. So I like to use that for feedback. But I think my brain has been trained to really like I'll read this thing and I like already get to that point where how I would feel a day later,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, it's funny. Earlier, you mentioned how much you think Flash as a form has changed. Now, I want to kind of unpack that and get into it a little bit, but I think one of the other things is that readers are really a lot more sophisticated now because there's so much more access to stories, and I talk about it a lot with my friends when I'm talking about movies, because just the amount of narrative that everyone is engaging with on a regular basis, whether it's TV shows or podcasts or whatever, we engage with narrative a lot more. And I think that is one of the things that has helped shift the format of Flash, because you don't have to do certain things that you maybe would have had to do, like explaining every little motion or detail of a room, because everyone has so much narrative that we've inherited from the years before us and are just consuming day in and day out. Do you think that plays a big part into why Flash has shifted to almost like prose poem in general, obviously, because there's plenty of Flash out there, that's, narrative focused.
So Flash as a form lends itself so well to this innovation
Yeah.
and this experimentation. So we are seeing, I think that's a great point about the more sophisticated reader. And with films as well, you're seeing more experimental or interesting things done with films as well that lots of people can see. I
Yes.
think film has always had that, but now it's more available, I guess. So people are doing things with Flash. They're doing things like hermit crab form.
I don't
Do
know
you know
that.
what that
No.
is? So I think the essayists started with this. What you do is you take an existing form, and we might do it during the extravaganza.
Oh, cool.
You know what a hermit crab is, right?
Yes.
It grabs onto something and makes it a house.
Yeah.
So you do that for a story. So think a letter, legal brief, crossword puzzle. I've seen so many of them. Quiz questions, math story problems. You're using that form to plug in a story. And I know I'm blowing your mind here.
Well, it's cool. I've never heard it. I've never heard it called that. That's so literally in the last episode of the show, Kyle Winkler, one of his stories we talked about is that he wrote this, like, it's essentially a guide to an introductory guide to a job, where you're
Yeah,
like,
that's perfect.
you're
Yeah.
being told what your job is. And on his newest novel coming out is just found documents telling the entire story. So it's like board game reviews, notes on phones, and I've never heard it called
I
hermit crab
love that.
structure. Yeah, yeah.
Hermit crab. Yep.
Uh,
Or borrowed form.
borrowed form. I'm excited to do that. Let's just jump into talking about the extravaganza since we're on it right now.
Okay.
So your Substack, The Art of Flash Fiction, I found it literally last week. I was so excited that I did. And tell me about the Flash extravaganza. I saw that it was starting in March, and I was like, well, I'm there. I'm going to do this. Tell us what it is, how people can join in, and when you came up with the concept of it.
So my Art of Flash Substack, I had been writing it for a couple of years, and it was only writing one a month, and it was free, and it was pretty basic. I thought that the newsletters themselves were really good. The material was good, but I felt like I had more to say.
Yeah.
And so I did open it up for paid subscribers after, yeah, 2 or 3 years. And so as part of, offering this, I wanted to give people that were a paid subscriber a little something more, right? So I did come up with this idea of just having a really intense immersion into the form. And this is the fourth one I think I've done. The first one I did went for a full month, and I was about totally exhausted
Oh, I'm
by the
sure.
end of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I love the idea, because I think when you have, and you can't do it, it's unsustainable. You can't do it forever.
Right.
But if you have this really intense thing in a community atmosphere, right? The energy just gets going, right? And I insist on positive feedback so that people don't fuss, And the next day, here's the next prompt, and let's write, let's churn out some more. And it's really cool to watch because I see what I see from beginning to end, especially the newer writers, that don't have that much experience, the confidence
Yeah.
that they gain. And they start doing more interesting things with their fiction. It's so fun to see.
Yeah,
I hope you're enjoying yourself.
oh gosh, I'm loving it so much. I wrote the 500 words yesterday, 254 this morning, and I was talking in the comments to someone about you gave your prompt for the day and sort of some set out some challenges, keep it to 250 words, and I was like, okay, I'm going to shoot for 250 words on this. And I loved that, but then I also loved that it really did start feeling like exercise in the best way, not the like, oh no, I don't want to go for a run or whatever. That I could tell I was using my brain and that I was developing energy, that it was
Oh,
feeding back into me, which is one of the reasons why I do this podcast. And so to have, because it does feel like this creative like burst that I'm receiving, which is one of the reasons why with the Flash Extravaganza, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this because I know it's going to be awesome. And getting to talk to people in the comments is great and tell people the lines in their stories that meant something to you or just a great turn of phrase. Community is the other reason why this podcast exists, is because I love getting to talk to people. And that's the big thing with Flash Extravaganza. Whatever else happened, I knew I was going to get to meet people and that was going to be great. So it's working.
right. And so you that you're getting, that's the whole thing. It's not when you're doing this and I'm doing the extravaganza, it's not like we're giving, it's all giving. You get so much back. So inspirational and fun.
It really is.
It's
Yeah. I try not to go into this too much, but like industry stuff, like publishing, and I'm curious about your thoughts on the short form because people have been eulogizing the short story for decades at this point. Nobody reads short stories anymore. Nobody buys short stories. They publish short story collections. Short fiction gets published in all of these places still to this day. Like, yes, it's not the golden age, but the short story is nowhere near dead.
I agree.
Well, yeah. So people saying, if someone said to you, you can't support yourself on short stories, and you definitely can't support yourself on short stories, what would you say to them?
I would say you're right.
It's a good answer. It's a good answer.
It's not the days of who was it, Kurt Vonnegut,
Yeah.
that he was just like basically a full-time story writer.
Yeah.
Him or somebody else. I mean, that's all they did.
King was for a while, and I think Stephen King gets held up a lot as this like emblem of the bygone era. And it's not wrong, like that, Playboy's not paying $2,000 for a short story or whatever it would be after inflation. I just always hate those arguments where it's like you can't support yourself, and I'm like, right? Is that what you think I'm trying? Is that why you think I'm doing this?
Right, right. Let's see. How can I afford a big house and a fancy car? I know.
That's right.
All right, flash fiction.
That's right. Man, the mortgage is due. I'll write a 250 word story. That'll solve this problem.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Oh my
it's
gosh.
a goofy like way to look at it, I think. And flash fiction to me serves a completely different purpose than the stuff that I'm trying. Like, it's not like I would say no if somebody was like, I would love to publish this or I'll pay you this much for this, but the concept is kind of different than if I'm writing a 5,000 word story or whatever. But I just hate hearing people talk about the death of the short story.
I do too, and it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I think we have to, yeah, change our
Hmm.
thinking about that for sure. Everybody I know that's a writer who isn't wealthy,
Right.
has somebody supporting, does some other kind of work, right? And teaching is my thing. I do retreats, I do workshops, I do Substack, lots of money making things that keep me in what I want to do. Now, there's a writer named Bud Smith. Do you know who that is?
I don't think so. No.
So he's written his latest novel is called Teenagers, and it's out by or Teenager, and it's out by one of the big five presses. Anyway,
Yeah.
you know what he does? He works heavy construction
There you go.
and he writes on his breaks or whatever free time he has on his phone.
Yeah.
And he also teaches out of his apartment. He teaches fiction writing.
Yeah.
Now, with a job like that, I would think at the end of the day, you're not like when you're laying in bed at night, you're not like, oh, you're thinking about your heavy construct, right? So
Sure.
you've got space
Yeah.
to really be creative. I think that that's the kind of job that works well. If I was I don't know, people do all kinds of things, right? That are writers.
Yeah. I love hearing stuff like that because I think there's a big misconception that you get a book published and then it's like, put the ascot on. We're going to Paris. Like we're on the tour now. It's like, that's not how it
No,
works, guys. Like that book might come out and your tomorrow is going to look a lot like your yesterday in most cases. So hearing
very
other
true.
people, working a job, and I love to talk to people about the ways in which their lives incorporate writing, not the ways in which their lives are just writing, because I think it's kind of a illusion that that's how it is for a lot of people, because it's not really that way.
Well, the interesting thing for me was when my kids were young and I had little ones at home, I had a little tiny desk in the corner of the kitchen, kind of like Stephen King, right? That
Yeah.
he had in a laundry room or something.
Yeah.
And I wrote a ton because I needed some place for my mind to go.
Right.
I needed the creative outlet. I just, Blue's Clues is on and, they're yelling and crying and, you know, so I was a great mom over in the corner typing, but I was so productive.
Yeah.
And then they went off to school. I did not have, this is before I was teaching. So I had this gap of time, wonderful time, right? Oh, you have several hours every day with nothing to do but write. That's when I went into the biggest block of my life. I was like,
Really.
yeah, because I had hours to work on it. There was not that pressure of, I don't know, it just kind of, it got too luxurious to have all that time, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, I can't do this. Gradually, I got better at it. And then I started
Yeah.
teaching.
That's so interesting. I think I have struggled with that before and never had it verbalized in such a way, because utter freedom more often than not in the past for me has led to me being like, well, I'm gonna think about it for a little bit more, instead of
Right.
I'm just gonna start
Right.
doing it.
Oh, you find so many things to do. I think I'm going to clear out that closet. That's pretty messy. So I have this conundrum because I really am looking to retire from outside work
Yeah.
so that my husband and I can travel and do things. But now I'm wondering, how am I going to do this? Am I going to
Yeah.
be able to sit down and write? So I
Yeah.
think I have to just maybe get very disciplined about it. Deadlines help. Do they help for you? If
Oh,
I've got
yes.
something, a goal. So I found out a week ago that there was a press that their open call for manuscripts. The deadline was March 1st. I found this out a week ago and I thought, you know what? I'm going for it. I am going for it. Had other things going on last week, but I just said, I'm also going to do this. And I spent so much time and I was focused, disciplined, and by God, I got that thing turned in
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah,
two
that I
hours
think
before the deadline.
it counts.
Hey,
Yeah, I really do think deadlines, for me, I don't know that I've ever had a deadline where I was like, this feels detrimental to my work, as much as it feels like almost like the ignition or a
hmm,
continual, like, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. And I mean, potentially that's why I've struggled with some of the stuff in the past, thinking about it now, where it's like, it's hard though with short stories. Tell me what you think about this. Douglas, gosh, I can't remember his name. He only publishes short stories that have been commissioned because he has deadlines. And I can't remember his name. Um, but I'm curious about the ways in which we can give ourselves actual deadlines instead of just being like, well, I should have this done by Friday, because that's easy to kind of shirk, which is one of the reasons why the Flash Extravaganza, where it is both a deadline but also like permission. That's a thing that I've talked about with writers before, where somebody has like given you permission, like it's
Yep.
time to write, go. Is community like one of the ways, and like maybe that's after you retire, that community could be your like continual permission.
Yeah, 100%. Some of the best work I've written in the last few years is when I've taken a workshop
Yeah.
and I have to turn something in.
Yeah.
And there's similar workshops that I found that work the way my mind works. So it is the positive feedback, it's the deep read, and it's the community aspect of it. You have to turn something in, and that works for me so well. Yeah, I think having a workshop or even a group of friends that works together, that can, but that I have to be accountable, right?
Yeah.
To somebody besides myself.
Right.
Because if it's me,
The most unreliable accountant is me. I'm the one who's just like, we'll get to it. Don't
oh,
worry.
it'll happen.
So I'm curious then about teaching for you. If you retired, would you retire from teaching? I'm also curious like how you arrived at your like desire to teach. Was it a thing that you knew always like you were going to teach, or is that just something that happened kind of naturally after you'd gotten deep into writing?
What happened was I used to have a blog
Mm,
many, many years ago on my website, and I was started posting little bits of craft pieces, little lessons, little, I'd put somebody else's published story and I would say some things about it, whatever. And finally, I'd get people that read and responded. And this one person said to me, when are you going to start teaching workshops? It hadn't occurred to me at
yeah.
all. And so I still didn't because I really have to be pushed into things. And then what happened was I was on a retreat and a gentleman named David Hicks was running the retreat. And he was beginning one of those low residency MFA programs at Regis University in Denver. And I said, he was talking about it, and I said, "Oh, wow, I would love to take that if I could." And he said, "You should be teaching." So happened was when they had a booth at AWP and they
Yeah.
were just getting the thing started, one of the people that came up that had some interest in the program, she said, "I will only sign up or only apply if you have Kathy Fish on your
Oh,
faculty."
that's amazing.
Crazy, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's something less than an adjunct. It was, so it's a low residency and everything is done online with you're the mentor and they're the student. They exchange, you have packets they have to turn in. And then you have the 10 days on campus where you teach in person. So when he told me that, when he actually hired me to do that, it was going to be months before I started. I went, I panicked because I thought, I have no experience.
I was about to ask if it felt natural or if you were like, holy crap.
No. So that's what I thought. Okay, I will start doing just on my own. I'll do some workshops and get a little experience in before I start, in 6 months
Yeah.
teaching in a graduate program. So I did. I started doing the workshops online and they got very, very popular. Now, the thing for me is when I'm deep into teaching, I find it very, very hard to write. And I think that was your initial question 10 minutes ago. Um, yeah, does it get in the way? And for me,
Yeah.
it does. It really does. And that's why I do want to retire and really scale back at that time on the, I might do I really enjoy writing retreats. We do one every year here in Colorado, and I enjoy that. And then I've done some international ones, things like that. But
You run them or just attend them?
so I started running along with my friend Nancy, Goodman, who lives here in Colorado too. And it was before the pandemic. We had so much fun finding these places, planning these retreats, getting people to sign up. they were pretty popular. We went to Italy, we went to Costa Rica, and then the pandemic hit. So we had to basically had to postpone. We had 1 hour.
Yeah.
So now I've stepped back from that because that was another really big time suck.
Oh, I'm
Was
sure.
an
Yeah.
administrative, not necessarily creative work, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't really like that so much. So now I will show. People say, "Do you want to do one in Spain?" And I'll say yes, or I'll say no. Um, but yeah, so I anticipate retirement being a very scaled back with teaching and hopefully much more intense in the on the writing front, right?
Yeah. Well, I hope
We'll
so.
see.
I hope it. Yeah, I hope it works out. And also, sort of selfishly, I mean, I hope your Substack would continue on, and there would be the community there still for. I mean, literally me, so that I could get to hang out with people and talk, and I think it would be really cool. But also, I understand if especially when you get to the point where you're like, I'm doing so much other than the creative stuff that I love, and it's just not. It's hard to balance between the things where you're like, I need to do this because of what it will give me, but it's not fun at all.
Yeah.
It's a thing I talk about with writers a lot, where because the whole like tortured, like, do you hate writing? And like, obviously, I love writing. Sometimes it's aggravating, but if I hated it, I wouldn't do it.
Right, exactly. Was it Dorothy Parker said something like, I hate writing, but I love having written?
Yeah. Yeah, and the act is it can be hard and difficult, which is obviously not a thing that you want to shy away from, but that doesn't mean it's I've seen things on Substack where they're like, you guys are talking about hating writing, like why do you even do it? And it's like, first of all, most likely the person's being hyperbolic, they're being facetious, sarcastic, whatever you want to say.
I mean, and what a gig. It's a gig where, it's hard. It is hard. Writing is
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't get easier, I don't think. And then there's so much rejection, but we keep doing it. So but obviously we like it. And also, we're always so down on ourselves, but also the ego that it takes to think that anybody would want to read. So
Yeah,
it's a
and
balance.
I think you have to accept both of those things where it's like, I
Both
know I'm
can
not the best
exist at
writer
the same
ever.
time.
Yeah, but you have to accept. Sort of wrapping up, I have one like sort of straightforward question. What's the shortest story that you've ever published?
I wrote something that was 100 words and it was published in a magazine called 100 Word Story, I think. But I don't like that story. But the shortest one that I wrote that I like was 126 words.
126.
Yeah. I don't
Were
think I'm
those
especially good at those super, super short ones.
at the 100 word ones?
I don't think
I
I'm
was
that
about to
good.
ask, what do you think your ideal like flash length is?
My sweet spot seems to be 700 words. But now that I'm interested in short stories, I find that they're getting longer and longer. Yeah,
Yeah.
but 700 words.
And then finally, where can everyone find you? What's the best way to engage with your work? And like, where are you online?
I have a terrible website, so I'm not even going to mention that. It needs updating, and I ignore it, and it's ugly. So Substack, actually, I'm Art of Flash Fiction. I'm on Substack. I am on the notes aspect of Substack. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Blue Sky, and that is about it, I think.
Well, I wholeheartedly endorse your Substack. I think it's great. It's been so much fun
Thank you.
finding it and getting to engage with people on there and do the writing. And I'll show up for all of the Flash extravaganza this month.
Yay! I'm so glad to hear it.
Thank you so much to Kathy for stopping by, and thank you for listening. I always appreciate it. At one point, when I was talking to Kathy about the writers' retreats that she used to run, she mentioned a friend's name, and the audio kind of messed up. So I wanted to make sure I got her friend's name mentioned here. Her name's Nancy Stolman. That's who she was running writers' retreats with. I hope you guys got something exciting and some energy out of this. And yeah, definitely swing by artofflashfiction.substack.com. She's not sponsoring me. I literally just love the place and have been having a ton of fun. This is not a sponsored episode. I just really like flash fiction and think the forum has so much to offer for writers and can help you even with the longer stuff that you're working. So make sure you go there, go to remotewritingjobs.org, check out my article there about the things I've learned from writing short fiction. And then also watch out for my interview with Abigail Monti on her Substack, which is Unsolicited Manuscript on Substack. And follow me on Substack. I'm pretty sure it's just austinrwilson.substack.com, so should be pretty easy to remember. And if you'd like this, let somebody know. Share the episode. Tell someone, hey, go check it out. Give a rating, give a review, all those kinds of things. I appreciate it. But even if you don't do those things, I appreciate you coming by. I'll talk to you again soon. I have 2 more interviews scheduled between the day I'm recording this and next week. Right. I have 2 more interviews that are going to be going up in March. So keep your eyes open for those. I will see you very soon.